All right, looks like we have it. So my seam is done. Yeah, and it looks pretty good. But let's start from the start. As I said before, I figured out it would be a better idea to like pre-do the setup because working with simulation is taking time and it's maybe not the best idea to like make a stream about waiting for a sim for 20 minutes. So I just made this project for Zen Garden, and the first thing I'm trying to achieve is very rudimentary grain simulation. That would be the sand for the Zen Garden, and following that, a setup for instancing grain sims, like sand grains, onto those instanced Vellum simulated points. So the setup works like this: that we just have a huge batch of particles, and we have a rake geometry, which is here, and this thing travels along a curve, which I've created like this. And then I resampled it, and then converted it to NURBS curves to make it more flowy, which maybe for this particular case is not that big of a deal, but for the first curve I did, it was a big of a deal. And then change it into actual polygon geometry, create normals with oriental and curve so that the rake follows the curve's tangent to correctly position it along the curve. And then I carve a point out of that curve and animate it on top of these. Just wait a sec. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it travels like this. Got a wee along the curve. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And then I created a rake with a very simple stuff. Just created a line, 9 points, and I created a basically copied this distance, this length attribute here with copy parameter and then paste relative reference, but I also added a minus so it moves it the other way and scaled it by half, which basically ensures that this line is always centered. No matter how long I make it, it's always this big. And then I chose every second point on it in here. Yeah, this preview doesn't work. Oh yeah, it works. So, and I offset it by 1. There are 9 points, so it chooses every second one but skips the first. And then created some other lines and merged them with the main line. Sweep this whole stuff with sweep. Move it up by the amount of length just as well. So the bottom of the line is always at 0. and then copied it to the point that travels along the curve. So it looks like this. So it looks like this. Yep. And this is one collider. Another collider that I created is actually copy of the source for grains. They are here, and then this is how maybe I should have explained this first. So this is how I created the grains. I made a grid that is 10 by 10, and I extruded by 0.1 in the negative direction, and I also lifted up by the same amount, also negative, to also always reach 0 in the Y. I create particles out of this with grain source. I could also do that here, but this gives a little bit more control. But I copy the particle scale from here, from point separation to particle scale, so they are pretty much like these. Yeah, looking pretty good. Also, I'm initializing rest for some stuff in the rendering phase for the actual instancing, and then attribute randomize for orientation, also for the rendering phase. And the other thing is that I copied this grid with actions create reference copy. Yeah, and I just deleted this thing to be 0, and also extruded it the other way around, moved it just a little bit, I mean scaled it just a little bit so it's bigger, and then delete it, outside, reverse, poly extrude. So this creates a collision geometry because the negative y is the ground plane, so the grains won't fall as stated in this parameter, but they were on the edges, they were sliding out. So I created a collision geometry so that they wouldn't do that. So, and took a file cache because this got quite big, it's like 1.5 million points. So I created it made a cache basically for it. And at this point, you can see that the rake is working pretty well. It's creating the wave pattern. It's maybe not that good visible on the viewport, but this actually wasn't the first result that I achieved. In the beginning it was quite worse. What helped was getting Vellum constraints or like Vellum grain to jitter, because if the grains are set up in perfect mathematical rows, then they don't really, I mean they collide properly, but it doesn't help the sand feel. And the second thing was substeps, because on one substeps the grain just keep flowing and like interacting with each other, and it messed everything up. I also dump the velocity because I don't really want them to move too much, and set the friction static threshold to 1. Alright, so after this, the same thing is done. I just color them. And the color is just one node. It's some noises here. Uh, I do the CD, set always, noise, and specific patterns. The noise values are pretty small because I want them to be super like sandy. Colors are also pretty ground related. The maybe this one, this weights actually correspond with how much of set color should be in the sim, and this is actually relying on the rest attribute so that they don't just stick around when uh, when the sim is moving, so that they just get the color once and then after that they stay with that color for the entire length of the simulation. And after that, here I have my setup where I created the actual grains. So I'm making a sphere and getting it a UV with a polar coordinate because I don't know, I find that this probably looks good for, and it has this fixed boundary seam that is actually quite useful because it deletes funky UVs for the sphere. This doesn't look too good, but I don't think that for grains of sand this will really be visible. And then I copy it without moving, without changing anything 4 times. And then I use connectivity to set every single grain to get a class attribute. Woo. Okay, so every grain gets a class attribute on points. Points get a class attribute. Yeah, it's right there. And then I go into a attribute VOP, get this class attribute in here, create a random vector based because random creates a number from 0 to 1 based on that class, so every sphere gets one value, and then I fit it so it's not 0 to 1, it's like minus to plus something crazy because I put that into offset so that every sphere gets a different place in the noise. And then I use this noise as an amount of normal displacement for the position and the normal. I mean, you basically displays the surface of the sphere based on the normal, and the amount of the displacement is the noise. So, long story short, it basically deforms every sphere in a slightly different way. So, we have 4 different sand grains basically. Yeah, this one is a little smaller, this one is a little different, and this one is a little different as well. And I export all of these as USD assets just because I wanted to see. I never really used USD exports much, but I wanted to see whether importing the assets directly or importing the assets from USD files would be faster. But that remains to be seen. So after everything is said and done, this node assigns every point with a corresponding grain to copy, basically, because this will also need to be enabled in instancer. Okay, and in here I basically delete 999 0.999 of the base entire simulation, so only like 1% or like 1 less than percent is left of the simulation, so that it's less of them and they don't crash my system when I try to open them in Solaris. So yep. Then this is my Solaris window, and I just use one area light, which is some random light wherever. Just close this maybe for now. Yeah, let's do black background. Okay, maybe this is worse. Let's leave it light. Yeah, they are there, and they have random orientations as we set up in the setup, but I don't think they are using the different. I don't think they are using all of the grains yet. Yeah, this is my first time streaming, or maybe second or something, so I understand this is probably pretty bad. But I don't know, I'm extending my comfort zone to keep talking about what I do. Just because whatever. So this instancer should be reading these, which are like get grains. Get grains. Excuse me. So yes, we have 4 files here. Grain 1, grain 3, grain 2, and grain 0. And this one looks pretty good. But I don't know if this, because name from pieces. Okay, let's do at delete here. Let's do point all of them. Oh. Okay, so all of them, but not point. Not p-scale, I mean. What could be useful here? Orient, rest, orient, orient. V, leave V. V. So is grain heat, force, mass, neighbors. Like, geez, what are all these? GL sphere points, GL points, all. Okay. And for the primitives and the detail, I don't think there are any useful ones. Huh. But leave these GL underscore sphere points. Is it the one? No. Sphere points. Show all points. Oh, not this one. because it makes this very nice shading support, so that I can see my points as spheres, and it's pretty cheap, so that's good. Yeah, so this is a little more clean. Groups. Okay. Let's do this times 3 maybe. So we have 3 times more points. No. 7,000 points. Okay, this should be still good. Yeah. Because I've heard a lot of stuff that the Solaris instancing should be super efficient. But on my system it usually still is kinda tedious to instance a lot of stuff. But yeah, how could I check if they are getting the differentiation of these? So if I look at this, name, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Oh, so you assign a name to these points. If we do blast, for example, add name equals grain 0 and points. Lead not selected. Oh, this actually look kind of cool. I like these. And grain 1. Okay, so these are these aisles. And grain 2. And grain 3. This is kind of good, but it means that all of these would look like the same grain, which is kind of bad. And this thing goes for noise. Do it maybe 0, 4. Okay. Element scale smaller. Okay. Let's slap this into this. And now they should all be looking like the same. So they are like this. And if I change 0 to 1, we have different points and they should be looking different too, are they? Hard to tell. Can I go color? Huh, again, actually. So let's say the grain 0 is red. And grain 2 is blue. But fucks up this thing, so let's put it here. And now sensing prototypes, and then there is this grain one, whatever this is, points. Display color. I don't think anything is display. Oh, there is some display stuff here, and we have display color. Okay, maybe in the render. Okay, this doesn't work, but the actual initial color works, so that means it works. So I can slowly but surely see if this thing can handle my rendering. So let's do 4,000 points. Okay, so 40,000 points. Yep, works. Not the fastest one, but it works. Target points, prototypes, prototype primitives, LOP input prims from the first one, so their second input. Prototype index, name attribute. I was quite sure this would work, but maybe I did not export the attribute. Okay. Let's just do random. This is good. This is very good for my occasion. So basically, this is inconsequential. Should not be here. Okay, let's see if it can handle like a half of it, or 07, without crashing. Alright, looking good. Alright, in these Zen Garden references that I've seen, there is always like a rake pattern like this one. Let's stay here, it will be easier to show. Yeah, so we have a rake pattern, and in these points there is always a stone. So I will just make some kind of a stone shape to put there. So let's start with an actual geometry. Say Zen stone. And let's maybe make it similar to the grain of sand, so sphere. And it can be this big. It would be good to just be polygon. Maybe 10 mountains up. So this is basically too much. There are no stones that look like this. Stone deformation should be really minimal, but I will also change this shape to be a little smaller on this and on the y-axis. This can also be smaller. Yeah, that's more like a nice Zen stone. I suppose it could even be smoother. Hmm. Now, I could add most of the detail of the actual stone through a texture, but that would be too easy. So let's try and do something more to it. We will make it into a VDB from polygons. And make it some absurd amount, like even less. Yeah, 32. And we'll scatter some points on top of that thing, and we won't relax them at all, so they don't get any relaxation. They are more like random. 1,000, maybe 1,000 is good. Let's do copy to points. And this will be our points that will copy the spheres yet again onto. So we have a bunch of huge spheres. So let's add adjust float. And this can be smaller for sure. And this can dictate that the p-scale is like this, but it will also be maybe random even. And max, yeah. And this may be 0, 2. Yeah. And even before that, I will do transform. I will do a transform here and just scale it 0.099. So they just get inside the sphere a little bit, and then we'll make VDB out of that. Interesting. Yeah, even less. Maybe let's save first and see, maybe 0.5. You can do it. So VDB wait, that was VDB SDF subtract. Let's say this will be A and this will be B. A difference. Make you a little more accurate, even more. 0.75. Now we have these little indentations, and when we convert, it into polygons. They starting looking pretty cool. So SDF difference A minus B. We could also do maybe the F reshape and erode it a little bit. This will make them bigger and a little more ingrained. But this is probably too much, so let's just do it a little bit. Yeah, I'd say this is good enough. But I need another stone like this. So let's just maybe copy the mountain. And this second one will also be a little stretched in the X. For 5. And this is 2, 5. Cool. And maybe even let's transform. And I'll shear it. Whoop, whoop. And no, this one. Like this. So, but less. Yeah, and this can be maybe a little stronger. This can be a little smaller. Yeah, that's way too much, but maybe with the smoothing we can get away with this. I feel still too much for a nice river rock. So also be like 01. And this will be a nice river rock. And we will basically just redo all of this stuff with VDBs. I could have done that the same way I did grains, but I don't feel like redoing the LOP setup, so I'll just make them unique. So I'll work on the on every single stone one by one. Slap this. So we have maybe even more points. But let's also do point jitter. So they are, yeah, not that much. 0.01. So some of them will go inside, some of them will go outside. So essentially there are even more offset. And maybe let's change this to be 0.4 and 0.6. And let's also randomize normals. So they are pointing whichever way, and that way there will be even more random holes. And let's do inside sphere. So, and then VDB from polygon that, and yet again this VDBs of A and VDBs of B. Yeah, this looks pretty nice. But one thing that I completely forgot about would be the UVs. So now I need to find a way to UV these nice stones so I can slap textures on them. Let's see if maybe the same trick will work here. UV texture. I was supposed to do a tutorial on triplanar projection in COPS, but I didn't do that yet. So let's see, maybe we can get away with this. Orthographic. A little stretched on the edges, but I figure I will be rendering this like this. So this could actually work probably. Let's see what UV unwrap has to say on that. UV unwrap is doing this pretty badly. Let's see auto UV. This is pretty good, but there are a lot of visible seams. Maybe if I would decrease this. Does it get better? This would get better. No, probably not. It's taking a while. Yeah, let's stay with the texture and see if it works. Right. Also pretty solid actually. But we will not know unless we do a UV quick shade. And I need to look for a proper texture for this. So let's see my folders. I'm sorry, but you will not be able to see that. Rocks. Yeah, this one should be good. So let's slap it here, here, and I'll slap this here. It's way too saturated. I could probably look for a better rock material. on CG Haven. Polyhaven, excuse me. This triplanar projection will come super handy right now. I wish I knew how to do that. I mean, I experimented with this before, but right now in Solaris it would probably get messy. Because of this thing. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting. Let's see with this one. Let's do. So in a sec we'll have a different texture, so we can try and export these to maybe place them and export them to Solaris. So let's do transform. The second one the same. Okay. And let's do a merge, but we'll not be exporting them as merged. And a null. This will be out stone 1. And out stone 2, why not? Let's move it up just a tad bit. Yeah, like this. Rotate it. So I could have actually included these stones in the simulation so that they would interact with the sand, but with rendering this from top, I don't think this is feasible. I mean that this is necessary. No one will notice probably that they are. And actually, if we are rendering this from the top, then this should probably be orthographic. This will be better. Okay, and the other one, let's move it here. Let's reset it. And the second one, move it up. Move it here and here. Let's see. some imports here. So stop import for my stone 1, and stone 2, stone 1. Just drag it. Let's say this is a reference. And stone 2. Let's say this is a reference as well. So now we have both of them. And let's make a copy of this camera, and let's call it AM render cam top. And let's reset it, move it up on Y. So do you have a look at constraint? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so this gets super slow with all of these instances, and they are actually bugged out of their mind because they don't really look like this. But I've seen this before. If I go for like here, maybe here, and then back to the instancer, yeah, now they are back to being obedient. So it's actually the material that messes up in their head, probably because of the displacement. Yep. So let's delete all of this and just do color, which is this geometry color, because they have really nice colors and really nice geometry. Oh. Oh, my input points had nice colors, but you cannot see them, can you? Maybe I should bind this material to all of this. Doesn't really change much. Let's try and set up this camera so it looks at it somehow. Let's go back. And even more back. No. I would like it like this, but maybe like this. I would like this to give the impression that this is chill out, please. Yeah, this could work. Maybe like this. The rake will be cut a little in the first frame. Ah, okay, I'm on the other side. So the rake starts here. I would like to see it coming onto me. Mm-hmm. It's hard to see, but it starts there. And goes like this. Whoosh, whoosh. Okay. Or maybe let's make it maybe like 75 in focal length and do it like this. And show me the f-stop, slap it on the first there, and do it like this maybe. So right now if I would render this, cool. Well, the real question is, are the colors there, and can I handle whole of it? Whole 1,400,000 pieces. So let's disable our save spot, save it, like twice. Yeah, so that's a problem. There is not enough points to cover everything, especially in these low parts. So I would have to make a grid underneath the points with a sand texture to create the illusion that there is actual sand there, because I don't think increasing the point count any further is reasonable. So let's try to fake it. Let's do grid and call it fake sand. No, out fake sand. Oh yeah, already better. Already way better, even if is just a regular, but we will slap a texture on it just to be safe. So let's do karma sand texture. Grid. This is a very basic material that I have. I only have a preset made so that it brings in 4 textures, just with Mtlx image tiled, and then this little node is a value that controls the tiling. So if I want to, I can change this to be larger or smaller, so I don't need to scale UVs. I can just basically scale textures onto models without much hassle. And in these I will put the sand texture. Let's see. Where do I have my sand texture? We'll use this aerial beach sand texture. And there is just one curious thing that you might stumble upon when you find textures on CG Polyhaven, and that's that sometimes they use this texture called ARM, which I think stands for ambient occlusion, roughness and metalness. So they basically pack 3 textures into one, and I bring this ARM texture here, that .ram file, and then use separate color. So basically R is ambient occlusion and this is roughness. So I slap this into roughness, or maybe this other roughness. And the last one is metalness, so I could technically do it like this, I think. Because yeah, it's a weird way of packing things and no one ever explained this to me. But let's say it works. Normals. This probably is an overkill, but let's do this. And let's probably pattern not displace it. So like this. And then, well, once we are on to textures, then let's also do the rock. So 3 measure library. Let's make a river rock texture. Yeah, but looks like our colors are actually in there, and I'm super happy about that. But oh, it's good. It's actually good. We will get into lighting this stuff soon. The rock, basically the same thing. Put diffuse into CD. Put roughness this time into roughness. And these textures I have both ARM and roughness, so I don't know, let's just use ARM because we have a setup for it. And normal. and displace. Slap displacement in there so that it works. Save it. And now here, out of your materials, you could also use assign material, but I don't know, I usually find this easier. So I will just take these two stones, slap them into river rock texture. And now Houdini will turn all of the textures into RAD files, which is somewhat annoying, but it is what it is. Yeah. Okay, they're looking pretty slick, but I have a few issues with that. First of all, this river rock is too yellow. It is too similar. Well, it should be similar, but let's just do color correct. Lessen the saturation. Make a lift. Or maybe leave the saturation, just lift it up. Or gamma. 1.5 maybe. This too strong. Oh yeah, better, way better. Alright, good. And is there something I need to change here? If I make it super reflective, then the sand will actually shine. If I make it opaque, it will be opaque. And we have colors on it. Pretty cool. Okay. Let's do some lighting. So, find an HDRI. And let's use this one. I think this is a desert scene. Boom. Lot of light. 1. Enable color temperature, make it warmer. Nice and warm. Maybe 5100. And with this thing, let's unlock it and go back to Houdini normal view. Let's save. Always save. You never know when you can get a crash. Turn this into a spotlight. Let's turn the strength to something reasonable, like 1000. This probably looks bad. Yeah. This lies. This is not how it works. Unless I would make it smaller. And Yeah. I don't know how I'm supposed to make these lights if this keeps lying. I don't want to keep rendering everything. Okay. Let's go back to maybe 100. Yeah, this is way more reasonable. And this is when I use this second monitor here. If I do Control T, for a new one, and then Control 1 or Alt 1, so it's a screen, and I basically pin my camera here, and that way I can operate lights here and keep looking for my cam here. So this one I can keep operating, and this one will let me know actually should be probably rendering this and leave this as VK. Yeah, so here I will do light, enter, specular, slap it there. Let's make it wider. Okay, they're also stronger. Maybe 10 would be enough. Let's see. No. 40. And enable temperature and make them warm. Yeah, now you can barely see them. But that's what we want. Maybe this should be a little stronger. I honestly have no idea why this is so strong. Uh-huh. Hmm. There's something strange that I need to check out, which is why. Let's do this into VK and make this into Karma. Ah, okay. Okay, I know what it's about. I should probably scale up particle size because these grains are not the correct size, and when they get scaled by the p-scale they are ending up being too small. So let's do adjust float p-scale, add, maybe let's do multiply. Let's do 1.5. Mm-hmm. And this little glow in here is actually this second material showing up. What would be if I deleted this? Hmm. What if I would change this to be rough? Doesn't really change much. Interesting. Let's do some of this. So we will choose our top render cam. Render directory should be job, render, let's say, shot 1, Zen Garden, tolerance sign F4 for some padding on my frame number, and then EXR is okay. XPU, I actually should have done that before. And image output, I will enable two things, which is albedo, and the second one is normals. And I do that because if you have albedo and normals, then afterwards in cops you can actually denoise the image with cop denoiser, which is in my opinion working better than this built-in denoiser in here. You could go geometry shading, or wait, yeah, filters, and like set the denoiser here. But this in my opinion, this gives up like this muddy result. It sometimes can blur the image in the ways you don't really like. So I'm usually just sticking with rendering without the denoiser and then denoising afterwards. And the actual resolution should be 1020 by 1080. Or maybe I should do 1080 by 1920 to post it on Instagram, but I don't feel like fiddling with the camera right now, so let's stay with horizontal. And this is probably too much for now for previewing, and this is probably too much for previewing as well, so let's do it like this and work this a little bit more. And this could go shoop shoop, and let's see my references. The sound is super coarse, but for today I think this will be enough. I will do a I'll do a flipbook so I can see how it looks. And this is one thing that I don't really like about Solaris, is that there is a separate context where everything happens, and I have to go back and forth between that and subplans. So recently I've been moving more and more of my workflow into LOPs, so I don't need to go back, but this also has some disadvantages. So yeah, it's a pain, but I will, because right now, for example, I don't have my camera, which is in LOPs, so I need to import it back here so I can see it with the flipbook, because if I try to do a flipbook in here, it will take ages, because it needs to load all of this stuff. And even if I wouldn't be doing that, in LOPs everything is just quite a bit slower, I think. So let's load my default render cam and select this cam. Okay. And now I have this, let's say render cam. Yep. And I can be outside in the OBJ and make this and see how it works with a, yeah, this will take a while. So I will probably be ending the stream with this, and I will let it render and then post the animation that I did in like whatever social media I feel like, probably on X, on my profile. So it's been exhilarating talking to myself while working on this project. I've seen like one viewer popping in and out of the stream, and I don't know if you could follow or see or get anything out of this, but yeah. Let's change the stream to the other thing. So let's make another one. Window capture and play. Yeah, and play. Yeah, so right now you are also seeing the render. That's good. Let's maybe do render underscore test. And use XPU. And render in background. Mm-hmm. Wait. Ah, okay, I understand. This is probably wise to save. Okay, I'll just let this cook for a while. Thank you for dropping by, Ugo. Uh, I will be trying to get into streaming every Friday. So if you want to, like, at the same time as today, probably. So if you feel like dropping by, then I will see you there. And I will wrap this up. Yeah, have a good day as well. Thanks for dropping by, as I said, and see you. Here. Wait, this is Alexander from the future. This render is actually wrong. Well, the problem is that the grains rescatter, and because I set in the instancer, I've set it to random, but it's random per frame, which causes this scattering. Like each particle gets a random one of the 4 grains, and they change constantly every frame. So I kinda dig the look, but it's technically very, very wrong, and I will fix this in a next video. But you basically need to export the name attribute and do it properly instead of just scattering randomly, and I will do that next time.